this is a bit of a this is a first for the Wrong Fit because we are recording on the same day that an episode has been released. That is the Wrong Fit number 8, International Intrigue, which is a term we say a lot on that particular episode. So I would say if you're listening to this right now, go listen to that. But that doesn't make any sense because this will be T.W.F. number 9, and it'll probably be at least a week or so, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I shouldn't be. I don't know why I always jinx myself. I'm always talking about how long it takes for stuff to get released or whatever. But that was a fun episode.
That was a fun episode, and it is a fit first. I don't think we've ever done one past. Yeah, I don't think we've ever done one where we're recording, except since the second episode, we were recording one like concurrently with releasing another one. So that is a fit first, and and that was a fun episode. And I remember like we brought up a lot of stuff that episode. It was kind of more of a emotional buddy episode. You know, we're talking about the coronavirus and all that. And that's always fun. We like to get a little bit tender here on the Wrong Fit. That's what we're here for.
Well, I don't know if it'll be as tender as you remember because as far as I know, you haven't listened to it. I mean, there would have been no way for you to listen to all of it.
I had not listened to all of it.
Between the release of it and us recording right now, because it's only been about an hour.
I haven't listened to all of it, but I lived it.
You did live it, but what you end up hearing may be a bit of a distorted version because, you know, as usual, I cut out a lot of things and I mix stuff around. This is an interesting thing. It may not be that interesting to others, but the editing process with the other episodes, I tended to just go ham immediately, editing from straight like start to finish, day and night. With this one, with number 8, I kind of wanted to take it a little slower and spend this. I spent about a week basically editing it, you know, kind of chill off and on, being a little bit more meticulous with what I chose to keep and how to cut and like transition certain subjects and everything. A problem I had been having was I had been kind of lazy near the end of editing some of the other episodes where I decided, you know what, I don't really want to edit anymore. I'll just cut off this entire section at the end because it's, you know, because to me it's boring, right? Because I've already heard, you know, I've been editing for a couple hours. Yeah. And if when you're editing it for hours straight, it can all sound boring and you just want to like cut stuff out. So I'm trying to give us a bit more credit and try to space out my editing more. So that way I'm keeping more of the stuff in. But that session was like a 2.5-hour session. That was probably our longest session since episode 1, which was close to 3 hours. But the final product is only about an hour and a half. So as always with these things, lots of stuff gets cut.
Now you got me worried that you're going to be like, you said like that the final product is going to be different than what we recorded. Now you got me worried that you're going to, you know, cut my voice together to get me canceled. Although I hope we didn't discuss any cancelable topics that time. But
we were getting pretty close to, you know, brand worship and things like that. We were kind of like complicit in the big bad marketing advertising thing, which I mean, you know, marketing is a pretty big topic that comes up a lot on this show. I think partly because of my background, and I think genuinely, like in your experience too, like you kind of like you know about some of this stuff and like you're really into certain brands and whatever. So like you are also like face to face with branding and advertising, and again, my educational background is in marketing, so I think that's why it comes up a lot. But I think if there was anything to cancel us for, I think it's maybe that we're not critical enough of marketing in general. I think we tend to be more like passive observers and being like, oh well, that's pretty cool, you know, as opposed to really criticizing it. I think that would be the most cancel worthy. To say nothing of my opinions about the last 2 Taylor Swift albums.
Yeah, I think that one, that's really where we're getting Swifties. Speaking of branding, I'm gonna have to point out your beautiful shirt that you have on today. That beautiful branding, you know, that just front and center Supreme logo. Marco's wearing it's like an orange peachish. It's peachy. It's a peachy Supreme t-shirt right now. Looking at the logo right now, pointing it out. Oh yeah, that's a logo right there. Yeah, I mean, you can just slap that logo on anything, and you know, you got a bestseller.
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't think this was a shirt that a lot of people were really looking at. What's cool about this one is that the design on the back, and let me see if I can't show you. Hold on, I gotta take out both of my earbuds for this. Hold on. Yeah, hey, this is cool. You're getting some live action stuff here on the podcast. All right, hold on.
Live action. All right. Oh, very cool. Very cool. So we'll link the t-shirt into the show description, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool because like the back has got this like spiral shape that Eli just saw with a bunch of text and different fonts, and it all kind of like centers towards like a central Supreme logo.
I haven't seen Marco in about a year in person now, and I'm going to come back and see him. He's going to have this huge back tattoo with all those words on it. Just going to check it out and
yeah.
But yeah, definitely check out the t-shirt that we're going to put in the show notes, because it's quite a work of art, I will say.
Yeah.
So like they said, like we came to the conclusion last time, branding, it's not all about the brand, it's not all about the logo. Or maybe it is.
It's about the culture.
Maybe I'm just trying to retroactively not get canceled. So I'm going to take a very middle of the road stance on this argument. But how have you been feeling? What have you been up to since it was a week and a half ago that we recorded, right?
Yeah, not much has changed. I don't remember when this happened, but this is something that has now happened to both of us. But we both now have had I think the kids are referring to it as a Fauci ouchie. Is that
Fauci
ouchie? Yeah, I think that's what the cool kids are saying. And we're older Zoomers, not quite millennials, but
yes.
But the kids are calling it Fauci ouchies.
We're still up on the lingo though. We're still up on the Fauci ouchie lingo.
We're still hip. We're hip to the game. That's what we are.
Exactly.
We're still there.
Exactly. Just like Fauci, man. That guy's he's like 100 years old and he's hip as hell.
I had no idea Fauci was like 81. That guy is old, man.
He's he's the head of the CDC, so he's got to be in good health shape. You think he knows the ins and outs of health, so
Yeah.
But I've met a lot of doctors in my time, and they're not all pictures of excellent health. But I don't even know where that came from. I'm sorry to shout out to all the doctors out there. I didn't mean to offend you, but we both gotten our Fauci ouchies. We're both microchipped. How are you feeling post microchipping?
I feel pretty good. I don't know about this like constant like Russian and Chinese voices that are in my ear that I keep receiving, like radio transmissions. Fauci ouchie. Okay,
Fauci ouchie.
How, when, why, and what does this mean for your life? Go.
All right, let's take it down, and I think that's a good way to structure it. How, when, why, and how things are going to change. And I think if we maybe we both go through it that way.
Yeah.
How is a good question. So I had asthma up until when I was like 12 years old. I still have an inhaler. I haven't had, like I said, in for half my life since I was like 12 years old, and I'm 22 now, so almost half my life I haven't had any sort of like resurgence of like asthmatic symptoms, no, like barely any wheezing, like not too much. But I do have on my chart, at my doctor in Houston, I have on my chart that I, am asthmatic or was asthmatic. So I was able to get a vaccine coming home from Houston yesterday, actually. So that's the win. Yesterday I was able to get it, and I got it. It was kind of like a dash to get it, because on Monday, a bunch of appointments opened up for like times to get the vaccine, and I was in like, because the way that they do it is just like they just drop a bunch of new appointments whenever they get the vaccine. It's like not a thing where you schedule way far in advance. At least the way that where I got it was doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got a drop of vaccines. I like went online. I like scheduled my appointment, but this time I was still in Austin. And I had to drive from Austin to Houston yesterday after work. So it's like a 3-hour drive to get from Austin to Houston. I had a 5-hour window to get from Austin to Houston in time for my vaccine.
Yeah.
And luckily I got there in time. It was a bit of a rush, but I got to the Texas, what's it called, Medical Center up in Houston. Shout out Medical Center. Shout out Texas Women's Hospital. I think that's where I was.
And shout out Texas women, y'all.
Shout out Texas women. International Women's Month this month, or National Women's Month. I don't know if it's international or national, but we're shouting out women today on the Wrong Fit podcast.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was out there. It was such a weird process because I've been hearing different people getting it in different ways. Last time I mentioned my friend who got it over in Austin at the Circuit of the Americas, which is, that was very different than the Texas Women's Hospital, needless to say. Like we were when I was with him getting his dose 1 of the vaccine, and also, got to clarify, mine was a single dose Johnson & Johnson gang.
Whoa.
Single dose gang. Yeah, not to flex, but I will be in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I will be fully vaccinated. I'll be COVID. Okay.
Well, but is it worth it though? But is it worth it though for the 70% effectiveness though?
All right. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's get into a little debate. We're gonna deviate a little bit.
We're gonna have a biological medical debate. You and I that have no working knowledge of any of this stuff. Yeah, let's debate.
Dude, you have no idea how many Vox articles I've read. How many American Health Digest, whatever.
Yes, sir.
Just like eating that stuff up. So when I was reading, we got a couple of factors, and this is we're out here educating the Wrong Fit audience. We're teaching them about vaccines and all that. So it is so this is a quote that I've read from 10 articles comparing the Johnson & Johnson vaccine to the what's it called? The Pfizer to the Moderna vaccine is like comparing apples and oranges, because that 95% effectiveness was tested at a time in which the pandemic was in a relative low point. So it was between August and October, compared to the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was tested from October to December, which was kind of a spike in that area. I think the holidays and all that was an international spike. So that's one thing you can't compare it to. Number two is the Johnson & Johnson vaccine was actually tested in South Africa against a lot of the COVID variants, which are stronger than the original virus. So for a lot of reasons, it's been tested to be stronger against the variants, as opposed to the Moderna, which got to that 95% effectiveness, only being tested against the original COVID virus. So that's the two big points of why Johnson & Johnson should be comparable to the Pfizer Moderna one.
Yeah, that's good.
I like the one shot thing, for me personally, especially when I'm hauling back to Houston to get it. It's nice that I don't have to worry. It's not like I'm in a month I'm gonna have to make a return trip to Houston. I have to handle all that.
Fair enough.
Now I just got it and I'm done. In 2 weeks I'm gonna be fully vaccinated. And so I think I answered why I think is the question that we're at now. That's probably the easiest question to answer. Since the beginning of this pandemic about a year ago, my entire mindset has been, let's put an end to it. I think it's everyone's mindset has just been what can I do to put an end to it? And for me, that's mean staying home. That's meant taking precautions, taking safety precautions, taking the pandemic seriously. And I think that in that same vein, I have also felt the responsibility to, as soon as I can get vaccinated, to just try and reach that kind of universal vaccination, herd immunity, whatever you want to call it.
Totally.
Just trying to get, as vaccinated as possible. Last question I think was what are we doing now? And bro, we're partying. No,
we're partying. Yes, sir.
We're partying. We're partying as soon as it's under control. Because obviously, I can still get the virus.
Yeah.
No matter which vaccine I get, you can still get it and you can still transmit it. So asymptomatically.
Right.
So still gotta stay safe. Still gotta stay vigilant. But I'm definitely gonna lax up a little bit. I saw CDC guidelines, and I would love to hear your side of this as well. And I would love to hear your entire side of this, because I know you've got your own vaccine story that I have not heard yet. I've heard from CDC was now if we are okay with like a small gatherings indoor gatherings of people who have been vaccinated, like that is like within our guidelines. So like taking the CDC's approach, like I think that's something that I'm going to feel much more comfortable with, is like, hey, you're vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, let's like do a little shindig, hang out at my place, maybe watch the game, that kind of stuff.
That's huge. Like,
yeah, that's huge. That's huge.
Like 2 months ago, like, Eli, I love you, but I'm sorry. Like, I would not be in the same room as you. Like and it's not because of
you're nasty, bro. You're nasty.
It's because you stink, and I'm like, God, you smell so bad. No, it's just your precautions, right? Like look, I it. I think I've mentioned it. I've alluded to it here on the show, and certainly I've talked to you about it offline here. I'm a bit of a for lack of a better term, I'm a bit of a COVID cop, right? I tend to really seize on when I feel that like people around me that really should know better are doing wrong, right? So in that regard, like it behooves me to not be a hypocrite myself, right? So sure. I have, when we lock down hard, and we really minimize any of those unnecessary interactions and everything. As time wore on and we got more information about, more data about what are safe activities, what are not safe activities and everything, then I started including those, right? Like, I saw my grandparents more, outside, masked and everything. My sister moved out a while ago, so I'm, seeing her more, taking walks around the neighborhood, socially distanced with masks and everything. Stuff that I didn't know that we could reliably do, obviously during the early stages of the pandemic, right? And now we're getting this guidance from the CDC it's huge, right? Groups of fully vaccinated adults can get together indoors without masks. Like that is basically like normalcy for a lot of people.
That's a game changer for real.
It's a huge game changer. And even, somewhat more cautiously, but still available is, large groups that are vaccinated, or, groups that are vaccinated with a handful of unvaccinated people, that is also conceivably safe, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. My vax story, which I think I told you offline, but I'll articulate as much as I can for the listenership here.
The questions were, what was it?
How, when, why, and what does this change?
True. Right, so let's go for it.
So how is a bit complicated. So back in January of this year, which was really like the Wild West of this whole vaccination. I mean, God, we're still in the Wild West of the vaccination saga here. Back when it was really tight, healthcare workers and those that really fall under this phase 1B thing here in Texas. The trouble with phase 1B is that it is quite vague. They do list out some like pretty concrete, like, hey, like if you have diabetes, if you have this, if you're over the age of this and blah, blah, blah. But the trouble is that it's all wrapped under limited, including but not limited to. And if you don't know, like, what is the full list? Like, what is the actual limit, right?
Yeah.
So I have a rheumatological condition, and I take immunosuppressant medicine for that, right? So depending on who you ask and depending on what you look up, like that can be called a chronic condition. And you could say that I am at increased danger of possible really, really bad effects from COVID-19, right? So I'm like, wait, for a while I was like, wait, am I eligible for phase 1B? Do I count for that? Because I think I tick some of those boxes, right? So in early January, I get an email from my rheumatology department at UT.
All right, and shout out rheumatoid department at UT.
Shout out rheumatology. Shout out my doctor, Dr. Shapiro. Hey. She's great. Shout out.
Dr. Shapiro.
Yes,
shout
sir.
out.
Shout out. They send me and they say, hey, everyone here at the office, all these rheumatologists, we have all been vaccinated, which is great because I'm hearing at the time, and you still kind of hear these horror stories about like nurses and certain doctors refusing the vaccine. I'm sorry, but if you are my care provider and you didn't take the vaccine, I would switch. I would switch providers because that's telling me that you don't make responsible medical decisions for your health. So why should I trust you to make responsible decisions for my health?
you get through medical school not believing in vaccines, like that's not, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's not right. But luckily
Yeah.
my rheumatologist, she assured me, she took the vaccine, so I'm happy to keep seeing her. But she did say, and I don't know where they got this information because I could not find anything anywhere, but they did say that at the moment, this was in early January, that those with rheumatological conditions or those on immunosuppressant drugs like Humira are not at this stage eligible for phase 1B. So I was like, okay, well, then I guess that answers that, right? But then, like, over time, you start to see that, like, the local health officials kind of start to function like these little, like, these, like, tribal warlords that decide who or not gets the vaccine. And then you get these, like, fringe cases where, like, oh, we have this vaccine, so we're, like, but we have these doses that are going to expire and no one else has come in, so we need to, like, get out into the street and start vaccinating people. Like, that's, like, a noble cause, but it starts to get really tricky. And we start developing what is, like, now being referred to as, like, vaccine envy, where people think that others are jumping the line and whatnot. And I don't really want to get too deep into that because that's kind of a complicated subject. But months and months had passed. I mean, since January, so about 2 months had passed, and I had not received any correspondence from my rheumatology department about whether things have changed or not. And it seems to me that the health officials themselves were making the judgment that it was okay to start opening up the vaccine providing, so to speak, to broader medical conditions. And, we started hearing about, those that are overweight being eligible for it, or smokers being eligible for it. I'm not going to touch on that because in the end, like, I just want more people vaccinated, so I don't mind what those, But I think it ends up making a mockery of the system where we try to have coherent and consistent phases, but on the ground, there's a bit of a disconnect about what those phases should entail and, like, what conditions they should cover. So I don't blame anyone that is, acting under vague pretenses, because I don't blame anyone for wanting to get the vaccine and wanting to be done with, or wanting to help out and, like, be done with this madness that we've been enduring for a year now. So I kind of take a bit more of a sympathetic view on this front than I think others might. But I'm also intentionally not, like, bringing up more examples because I don't want to get tied down in this. So I think for all intents and purposes, I think at this stage at where we are, I don't believe that you or I were quote unquote line cutters, right? We saw an opportunity, we fell under whatever they were considering for eligibility, and we got the vaccine. I think humans in cases like this, are going to be naturally opportunist. And I think it's
back against the wall,
And I think so long as the supplies are good and the people that can get them are getting them, then I think we're okay. I think we're getting there. I don't think we're quite there yet. Great, here I am, like, diving in this rabbit hole again. So let's get out of this rabbit hole, and that's my how, right? The when was about a week and a half ago. It was near the start of March. It was March 8th, so today's the 17th, so it's been about a week and a half. So that was cool. Posted pictures on Facebook and Instagram looking fly as hell. So now the pressure for me is on for my second dose picture, because I need to top or match that outfit. So now we're getting into which vaccine did I get? I got the Pfizer. So, like, the Pfizer, that's like the Big Daddy P, man. Like, Big Daddy P, like, that's the one that everyone says is like, look, this one beats the Brazil variant, the UK variant, the South African variant, the Tajikistan variant, the Central African Republic variant. That beats all the variants. Like, so I got so those are the ones that are really available. I think the Johnson & Johnson is just not as available right now. They haven't had as many doses administered, so I think that's why, like, I think especially down here in Laredo, like, you're not going to find a lot of Johnson & Johnson availability, although I'm certain that'll change soon.
Well, I understand, like, it's like, the Pfizer one is really good because apparently the Moderna, like people been getting some nasty side effects, but for the Pfizer,
they're saying that about the Pfizer too. That the second
all right,
dose,
for real.
the second dose Pfizer is also a bit of a toughie.
Ooh, okay.
My story is a little bit complicated by the fact that I do take immunosuppressant medication, and the trouble with that is that it ends up blunting your immune response to the vaccine. So what that means is that like it does kind of reduce the level of protection that you get. They don't know to quite what extent. They do, of course, recommend, and I'm recommending it to everybody right now. If you are on immunosuppressants, you should still take the vaccine. That's still a big deal. It still does provide protection, but they're just not quite sure to what degree it reduces that protection. But of course, what that also means is that I'm probably not that likely to get very intense side effects to my second dose Pfizer, which will happen at the end of the month.
At UT, I think it's pretty much all Pfizer and Moderna. Like I haven't heard anyone, else. And that's another thing. We were talking about avenues of getting the vaccine.
Right.
I think that one of the biggest avenues that I've been seeing people getting is getting it through UT. Just being a student at UT, a lot of people are getting it that way. And I think that UT was able to widen their the amount of people that they were vaccinating in a way that like cities and like counties were not able to do that, because I know like a lot of my friends were getting it, way before, like from UT, way before they would have gotten it from Austin Public Health, and it's like that's just another avenue that people were kind of just getting their vaccines. Well, that's interesting.
And that's what I'm saying. Like you have all of these different entities with these different like barriers of entry, right?
Yeah.
So like in one breath, I can have my rheumatology department several months ago tell me that like this is not going to be folded into phase 1B, but in another breath, like you're going to have all of these like pharmacies and schools and universities and entities that are saying, hey, like we're open to these groups of people, right? So like that, I think you can't blame people for wanting to get in on this when there's so much miscommunication and there are opportunities for people to get the vaccine. I think this is just a human problem, and I think the way to solve it is just to make sure that there's supply enough to meet the demand, and we're getting there, but we're not there yet, which I think is what's causing sort of this vaccine envy that you hear so much about. So what does this change? I tend to think kind of like the way you do. I tend to think that I'm starting to think more seriously about gatherings with friends that are, obviously I'm down here, way down south, but if I was ever in town, right, in Austin, where most of my friends are, I tend to think now more positively towards that idea, right? Obviously, like we want to like make sure like everyone knows like this only counts if you're fully vaccinated after the sort of like incubation period that they're recommending. 2 weeks after you get your one dose or your second dose or whatever, like you have to wait for your body to build that immune response, and then from there on, now you can start having these measured gatherings among friends, right? It's not a license to go ham or anything and I'm not treating it that way, and I know that you're not treating it that way. Like I said, I've always been very meticulous about all of my pandemic response since the very beginning. I think as a necessity, right? Because I'm immunocompromised, and I think also out of empathy, right? And caring for others. I don't want to inadvertently like transmit the virus to someone else, right? And I don't want to get it either. So like, that's always been my modus operandi, so to speak. But I
think it's like the right way to look at it.
Yeah. But like my sister is an educator, and she got her vaccine a couple weeks ago, so she'll soon also be fully vaccinated. And she's not in my household anymore, so like I would love to be fully vaccinated and spend more personal time with my family, family members that are fully vaccinated, and like I said, I have friends in Austin that soon that'll be the case for them as well, and I'll be able to really consider swinging by and like having those gatherings and things that I've really missed for a very long time now. I mean, God, a year is a super duper long time. And hey, you know what? Like, we could have an in-person, the wrong fit recording session pretty soon.
Finally.
Like that would
It's been so long. It's been like about a year of this idea, and like, that would be fantastic. And I feel like we'd be a little bit more standard podcast, because I think that everyone I know, all the podcasts I know, like they've like transitioned from like recording in person to like this kind of like virtual recording thing. So yeah, that'd be fantastic to kind of do it the old fashioned way, as they say. Get the studio going.
We're in the stew. So now that like the post-COVID summer is looking like more and more like a little reality, right? Again, I want to disclaim, like, we're not advocating, doing all the stuff that you always did in the summer, right? But
yeah, it's not like going to Cabo, partying,
right.
clubbing. Like,
but if the vaccination rates start to improve, like we can start having more and more like a normal outdoor summer, right? This has bred, I think, the most important sartorial question of our time. All right, shorts. Does shorter equal better? Question mark. I pose I pose that to you, Eli. Like, what is your take on shorts? How do you wear shorts? What's your history with shorts? I think every guy has had a complicated history with shorts. I know I have. I would love to hear from you, and like, let's talk about, because this has become a bit of a thing. Like, we've got, on TikTok, the girls, they're talking. They're saying, hey, guys, 5.5-inch inseam shorts. You got to wear it. If you got it, flaunt it,
The real answer to that question is, do you got it? And before we start talking about type of shorts, just to talk about shorts in general, yes or no, I think that's a question in of itself. Is, I'm not proud of a lot of parts of my body. I'm not. It's like, it's your body. It's your, it's whatever.
Right.
But one part I will go to war over is, look at these calves. Look at these nice thick calves. Just some. I got the calves of a.
Can I get some more slapping noises for the microphone so I can really fit it in there? Ooh.
There we go. That's the good stuff.
This is the most like out of pocket episode so far.
You obviously can't see it, but I was just giving a good.
Don't worry, we'll get a picture of some thighs and calves in the show notes. Don't worry.
Put in the show. I'll send you a picture of my calves in the show notes.
Please do not.
This is getting like kind of like very close to like something unsavory. But truth be told, I do have decent calves. I've got the calves of a a mailman just out here. They say that calves are like, I think like 90% genetics or something like that, and man, I've been blessed. That's what I'm gonna say. So in general, for me, and I know that this is like not for everyone, because not, like I said, not everyone has been blessed with these amazing calves.
Jesus Christ.
But for me, if shorts are always a move if it's like socially acceptable, and if it's like temperature, like is the correct temperature for it.
Right.
I'm not one of those guys who's gonna be it's like 0 degrees and I'm out here rocking my like, what do you say, 5.5-inch inseam shorts.
Right.
That's not who I am. But like, if it's like right temperature, like springtime, fall time even, I'm gonna be rocking the shorts. So that's just my general philosophy on shorts. Like, I'm pro shorts, and I don't know. I'm curious. What is your shorts versus pants philosophy? Before we go into the weeds of what type of shorts, I just wanted to get that for the record. It's been a year since I've seen the lower half of your body, but if I remember correctly, you also have some pretty decent calves.
Well, thank you, sir. I would like to slap my calves for you on the microphone right now, but I am wearing pants right now, so it would be muffled by the sound of premium stretch cotton.
Premium stretch. That's the good stuff, though.
It is. Hey, shout out Dockers, man. Dockers have made my favorite pairs of pants for like the past year or so. So like, shout out Dockers. So to answer your whole like shorts question philosophy, like this is hard. Like, as a guy, look, it's no secret. If you look at the album art, and if you look at just any picture of us, Eli is. I think it might be fair to describe you. You're a bit of a lanky guy, okay? You're taller than me by a little bit, so like that, that kind of helps you, right?
I'm a long person.
Yeah, I'm of average height. I'm a bit of a bigger guy, right? I think that's fair to characterize, right? So shorts and I, complicated relationship there. That's a complicated relationship. And where it hasn't been complicated, it has been like attacked and threatened, right? And you might be wondering, like, what do I mean by that, right? So for a long time, like, I was never that comfortable wearing shorts. I tended to be a little self-conscious about my body and everything. And we don't have to like dive too deep into that. I know that it's a bit of a sensitive topic for, I think, a lot of people. But I think everyone can kind of relate to feeling a little self-conscious about their body sometimes, right? I only felt comfortable wearing shorts if they were shorts that were below the knee, right? I'm talking real, like, Walmart basketball shorts that, just go all the way down, man. They go all the way.
Mario's gonna pull up in the capri pants.
Yeah, I got my capri pants. I was a cargo short fiend when I was in like middle school and even like through early high school. These big hulking, big hole cargo shorts that like go all the way down, not stylish, not anything, not form fitting, not even that useful either, because I wasn't really carrying lots of stuff in those shorts.
I was, I was a cargo short fiend. Yeah, I was just wearing these shorts and yeah, no, I did not put anything in my pockets also. So I think for me, it was until like 10th grade, I was like wearing cargo shorts regularly, which is like a long time. And that would have been for me. So 10th grade would have been like 2015, 16-ish.
I think my shorts growth got stunted a little bit. And I don't know if, I think you relate to this because I think you mentioned this in another episode, but like I had a dress code in middle school and high school. And like the dress code like kind of allowed shorts, it kind of didn't. They were a little bit like wishy-washy on it, but I always wore pants to school. And whenever I wore shorts, it was almost always at home, where it doesn't really matter what you wear, right? Because you're not, you don't have to impress your parents or anything. So
yeah.
And then I kind of found like a happy medium, in my adult life, where shorts were at or a little bit above the knee. And I was like happy and comfortable with that. I still wasn't like happy about like maybe I was still a little self-conscious about my body or whatever. But it was like better, and I wasn't crazy about some of the fits on the shorts either. Some of them are a little too big, but the length, it sat right with me, right? But now that's under attack because you've got like people on TikTok and on Twitter and everything saying like, don't be shy, gentlemen, like, raise up those inseams, like get them a little higher, and I love the look on most guys, like on I think thinner guys and taller guys. I think it's a great look, right? I have to say it. I'm afraid, I'm scared, right? Big boys out there, shout out, right? But I think those guys can relate, So I'm afraid. So I measured the inseam on the shorts that I have, and it's like 9 inches, 8.5 inches, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually like that's like above the knee, basically.
Yeah, and it depends on your proportionality too.
Absolutely, it depends on how long your legs are. I think I'm blessed with like average length legs, so that's not like a huge worry. But I've got like big thighs, right? I got thunder thighs, is what they call them. I think that's what the kids call them these days. I am proud of my calves. My thighs leave a little bit to be desired, and I've been meaning to like work out more often anyway. But the short inch, the 5.5 inch inseam, even 6 inches, like I want to make the jump, but I'm afraid that it's not going to be the greatest look.
So two things based off what you said.
Yeah.
So one thing, going back to dress code, I had a dress code. For me, it had to be pants. So I thought of pants as kind of like a constricted thing. And, we're debating like what type of shorts to wear, talking about cargo shorts, talking about inseam. But for me, it has always been, I think, being like a lankier, longer guy and like that, it has always been more difficult for me to get the right pants as opposed to the right shorts. Like finding the right fit, finding the right, like, how tight is too tight, how loose is like, too baggy. But that's just like my general, because I remember when I was wearing, because we had to wear like khakis, right? And like I just got the khakis that like, oh, these are the school khakis, right? And everyone was like, oh, bro, you got the pleateds, like you got the whatever, the not good brands, I don't know, but like eventually, like after years of schooling and years of bullying, I came out of it like, okay,
bullying. They bullied you for that?
They were making fun of me. Not really bullying, but you know, it was like, and we were, you know, it was through middle school too, and like, you know, middle school they'll bully you for anything, you know.
True. They do.
Those kids are ruthless. But so yeah, it was like I now know that for me the pleated look, like the pleated, and you know what I'm talking about, like the pleated in the front.
Oh yeah,
with, like khaki pants. Yeah, like that's not the right look. Like that's like you're getting like some boxy ass, like boxy butt looking kind of thing with that. So that's the lesson I learned. But so it's always been, I've had a more complicated relationship with pants than shorts. With shorts, it's like you know, like I said, confident about my calves. I will say though, I'm less confident about my thighs than my calves. I don't have like, you know, it's not like I'm like I have like a big-ish thighs, like not like you know, crazy big, but I'm just saying I'm more confident about my calves and my thighs. And you know, right now as we speak, I'm wearing shorts. You can see it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that what would be a good, and I've also, you know, as you can see, Marco, not the viewers because this is a podcast,
right?
I got a measuring tape right here.
Ooh.
This literally just so happened to be in my pocket, and I have no idea what the inseam of these shorts are. So I'm just gonna go crotch to we're working with 9. We're working with a 9-inch inseam here.
Okay, that's kind of like those are like mine, yeah.
Yeah, but these are not like, these aren't, you know, high shorts, but these are like decent. I don't know. These are like decently like. I'm showing about like, I'm gonna measure from the end of the short to my knee, and we're working with like about 9 inches from knee to end of the short. So it's like half my. I feel like half my leg is exposed, half my leg is covered. And I think that's a decently good ratio.
I wonder if you're measuring it correctly, because it sounds like your leg is like 30 inches, or I don't know what's going on with your body now. You know, I haven't seen you in a long time, and maybe you shot up like a rocket, you know. Like regardless of the inseam numbers, I think you know instinctively in your mind what like shorts look like and how they would look on you, right?
For sure.
Like, what is that telling you? Like, how do you feel? Does it make you uncomfortable? Like, what's the move here?
So, talking about trajectory a bit, my trajectory has definitely been like from below knee to a little bit above knee to now I'm like a solid couple inches above the knee. Is my mean short length. I think that like my favorite shorts I think are 7-inch inseam. I remember that correctly. If I remember that correctly.
That's fair. Yeah.
So that's pretty middle of the road. But either way, it's been a slow like upwards trend for me, and each time I've like, you know, decided to contract my shorts a little bit, got like a little bit smaller shorts, I always felt a little bit exposed at the outset of that kind of like expedition into a new, like I felt like a little bit, you know, you're exposing more skin, like it's like, you know, your knees, like I think that a lot of your leg you can be very self-conscious with, because like when you're taking a picture it's like usually like waist up kind of thing, whereas like with your legs, it's like, okay, like calves are kind of weird, and then you like move it up a little bit, and like knees are like really weird, like, you know.
If I look at my knees too long, it's like, nah, I'm wearing pants. You know, I gotta.
And so once you bring that from under knee to over knee, that's a jump, right? Like of like self confidence.
That's a commitment. That's a commitment to yourself and to others, right? Like you're happy to expose more of yourself, which, hey, wear what you like, right? We don't judge, we don't shame. We're very progressive here on The Wrong Fit. But you know, that's a commitment to yourself, right? And if you're not ready to make that commitment, you know, it can be hard. You know, like I said, I've always been like, for all of those things that you're saying, like that's where the root of my self-consciousness has come from, right? As a kid, like I didn't like people looking at my knees. I didn't like my knees. So that's why I always wore like really long. You know, as an adult, I've gotten a little bit more confident. But to make that jump from what I've got, which is like 8-9-inch inseam, which is, you know, at or above the knee, that's not horrible, right?
Yeah, it's not like we're talking.
Yeah, but to jump from that to like now we're going like just barely halfway down my thigh, that's a big jump. And I gotta tell you, my thighs are kind of like pasty white because I wear a lot of, you know, I wear you know, the shorts at that length. So I've always thought about it. Say if I ever made the jump to 5.5 inch, I'm going to have to work out more, and I'm going to have to like tan there a little bit just to like bring that color a bit more in line with the rest of my body.
That's true, and I didn't even think about that. Is like, yeah, like that's a real thing. Is that like not only is you're exposing more body to the world, you're exposing more body to the sun, and like that's like, you know, that takes time to like reach the line for you. So a funny story about that is I remember when I worked for a lifeguard for a couple summers back in like high school and like early college. I was a lifeguard, and we wore the same shorts every day, right? Mm-hmm. And they were very like, you know, I think they were probably like longer inseam than most shorts, but probably like we're talking 9-10 inches maybe of inseam. So and we had to wear the same ones every day, but they would kind of ride up. So I just remember at the end of the summer I had this like a very hard tan, like it was like literally like a line, like you know like ice cream, like the Bluebell ice cream, like the Great Divide, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
I actually don't.
You don't know the Great Divide. So it's like, anyway, for our viewers who are not familiar, and to Marco who's not familiar, like the Great Divide is like, it's like half chocolate, half vanilla, and it's like split down the middle.
Yeah, okay, I can imagine this, yeah.
And that was what it looked like, really. Like not quite, you know, those colors, but it was like a split, like solid line in the sand of like tan versus not tan. And it was like pasty white above the short. Because not only, I think it's like the short material, like it's like swim trunk material, which is like solider, so you're not getting any sunlight like permeating. So it was like a very hard line, and I was always sitting the same way every single day. Like you're on the same stand wearing the same shorts, so they would ride up in the same way every day. And by the end of the summer, when I was trying to make that transition to be like a little bit above the knee, a little bit like, you know, higher and higher, you know, I was exposing this like very stark contrasted tan line, which like it was just very like, it's like pasty white, which is like that summer I had a decent tan, because I was out there, you know, on the stands. But yeah, there's a lot to consider. I feel like with shorts, like I said, like with jeans, I always have more, with pants in general, not just jeans. I feel like there's a lot more considerations for me. Like I'm thinking about like bagginess, length, fit, cut, all that stuff. I remember very vividly, like, you know, I mentioned like I was wearing cargo shorts until 10th grade. Like I very much remember the summer after 10th grade making that deliberate transition from like, you know, cargo shorts and like, you know, whatever t-shirts to like more, you know, better stuff, right? You know, more adult styled stuff. And I even remember in college, like I think around my sophomore year, I was like, okay, I gotta be a little bit more adult in my style. You know, no more tank tops, no more, you know, whatever.
And I think in the future we'll have like a wardrobe, like a full like wardrobe discussion pod where we just talk about like the shifts, our sartorial shifts. You know, because I think if we get into that now, it'll probably go on for a really long time. But we will have that at some point in the future, because I'm really curious to see like where you've progressed, and like a lot of the things that you said I think could be the jumping off point for another conversation, because you mentioned like feeling more adult, feeling like you have to like shed some of your old habits and stuff. Like I really relate to that, but we can get to that another day, I think.
Yeah, like they say, the clothes make the man.
The clothes make the man.
I think pets is going to be a place where, you know, you and I, Marco, we have a little bit of, there's a little bit of distance between us on this issue. So I don't think it always would have been that way. I don't fully know your opinions on pets, and, you know, that's how we always come into these conversations, is kind of like an idea for a conversation or a debate or, you know, something like that, without fully knowing the other one's view on it. But we know each other decently well. I think I kind of have a feeling of, you know, where you lie on the pet debate. But I'll just say, for me, like my pet journey has gone from, you know, when I was a kid, really wanting a pet, really wanting like, you know, a dog or a cat or a lizard, you know, so much so I was allergic to pets. Like I was allergic to dogs. I still am allergic to dogs. You know, I can take a pill, and like I can take like, you know, Allegra or whatever, and it helps it out most of the way there. But, you know, even when I was a kid and I was like getting these allergic reactions, I was like, I want a dog, I want a pet. Like my friends have dogs, they're so cute, like they're good friends and all that. So I was always wanting a pet, but my dad was like, you know, no pets, you know, no pets in the house. And then we ended up getting a dog summer 2019. And then since then, it's kind of been the classic story of dad doesn't want dog, dad gets dog, dad loves dog the most, kind of situation.
Yeah.
It's a very classic story. But anyway, like I've always been pro pet, but very recently, like this past since summer 2019, I've been a pet owner, and I've been like more pet friendly, and even more recently, kind of since the beginning of this year, I've been spending a lot of time and like watching my girlfriend's dog, and we've developed a tight relationship in a way that, like, with my family dog, I don't even think I have as strong a relationship with, because it's a family dog. It's like, everyone's kind of responsibility, and like everyone's kind of playing with it and stuff. But like with this dog, it's like, more feels like my dog and my responsibility, especially when I'm watching it like by myself. But anyway, I think that I am very pro pet, but I do think that, just to provide a little bit of nuance, I think that it is good to wait until a kid is older. I think that, like, when you're in a situation where it's like you've got, a 2-year-old kid and a 1-year-old dog, I think that that's just kind of a recipe for disaster, and a recipe, for your own stress as a parent.
Yeah.
But, I don't know anything about being a parent. But
yeah,
I do know stories about, thankfully at 22 years old, I don't know anything about being a parent, but I do see, like, hear stories of like kids in, like, getting into like the dogs, or like, will hurt the kids, or like stuff like that. And like the parents aren't, watching over the dog as much because they've got a kid, and like that's a whole thing in of itself. But what are your? I know that you're not a pet owner. Is that correct, Marco?
I am not currently a pet owner. That's correct.
Okay.
I'm curious. You said earlier that you thought you could ascertain my position. I'm curious, like, where does that come from? Like, how do you think you can know where I would stand on this?
So number one is that you don't have a pet, and I did know that, or at least like I had not heard any mention of a pet from you. So no pet, and also, like, if you have a pet, you gotta post it on social media a little bit. Those like cute little pet. I love seeing dog photos on Instagram, that kind of thing, like that makes my heart happy. So if you did have a pet, I'd be like, why are you holding out on us?
Right.
But so that's one thing that I would ascertain from that. And two, I don't know, you seem like a very clean person, and that is usually a sign of anti-pet person. Not always.
Okay.
Like, not always.
I am not always a clean person. That is correct.
What I was saying is not always that clean person means anti-pet, but you know yourself. You know your truth. I'm not gonna try and tell you your truth. So I think that those two, and you're very responsible for yourself, if that makes sense. And I think that with a pet, obviously it's a big responsibility, but I think it's also a burden that, like, every once in a while you have to be comfortable, like, giving to someone else, and like you're very like self-responsible. So I don't know if like that, I don't know how that would play out. But in general, I think of you as, like, in my brain, even without any knowledge, I categorize you as a not pet person. And probably the biggest evidence to that fact, again, is just the fact that I know of, you did not have a pet.
Yeah. Those are pretty good guesses. I think those are pretty. That's a pretty astute. What is the word? God, what is the word? Diagnosis.
Observation.
Diagnosis. It's a pretty astute diagnosis for everything you just said there. So you're right. I am not currently a pet owner. I do value my, like, just taking care of me, like number one priority. I really value that. I really value, like, when I had my own apartment, when I had an apartment, pre-pandemic and everything, like I really valued coming home and just focusing on me for the rest of the day, right? And like not caring about that, not having to care for another thing, right? Be that a child, God forbid, or a pet.
Oh God,
right? Yeah. That is also, like, what you just said is correct. I'm curious as to, like, what do I do in day-to-day conversation that makes you think that way? Like, you're not wrong, but like I'm curious as to like what have I said or done that like makes you know that, you know?
You bring up a good point with you talk about, going home to your apartments and to your roommates. And that's another thing, is that a piece of evidence I didn't mention was with roommates. You've always talked about your roommates as having like the best roommate relationships have been with roommates where you guys are like independent and like y'all are still friends, but it's like not like
that's fair.
You're independent, like and a dog is a roommate that's like always gonna be there, right? So I think that is also more of an indication for me.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going into like this Sherlock Holmes kind of like observation, like like, oh, he's got scratch marks on his phone, so that means that he's like whatever, like this, like these very like wild like accusations. But and it's nice to know that in this case it was actually an astute diagnosis.
That is really interesting. Like that, man, I would have never like made connections like that based on the stuff that other people have said around me. Like that's really interesting, because like you're right. The best roommate relationships I've had, which honestly have been pretty much all of my roommates that I ever had, were just like
shout
out my roommates, or most of my roommates, not all of them. Where we just keep to ourselves, right? If you want to talk to me, you can. If I want to talk to you, I want to feel like I can, right? But most of the time, like I get home, I just go straight to my room, and you don't bother me, and you don't tell me to do something, and so long as we're all like keeping the place clean and tidy, like we have no problems, right? I was only ever roommates with a friend of mine once, and shout out him if he's listening. He'll know. You know who you are. And that was great because again, we still had that relationship where it's like if I'm gonna go home and just go to my room, like there is no expectation that you're gonna like bother me to do something, right? I still have that expectation of privacy, like full privacy. But it was also fun because like I really like I am still like a social person, and I really enjoyed having a roommate that I was friends with. But my other roommates that have been decent, right? Like the same kind of thing applies. So again, very astute observation. So again, it's true. Those things about me are true. I'm not currently a pet owner, and I say currently because I used to be.
Let's get some backstory here.
Well, it was the family cat. We had a cat for about 6 or 7 years, so until he passed away tragically.
See, you do seem like much more of a cat guy.
If I was gonna have a pet, I think I should seem like a cat person. Or possibly a fish person, maybe an aquarium person.
No, that's like real independence, like not gonna bother you kind of thing.
Yeah, but
not like a fish is gonna jump out and just start like bothering
me. Yeah, like, don't worry, I'll feed the fish, but he's not gonna start like licking my face or anything. And cats don't really do that either. Yeah,
you're gonna feed the fish, you're gonna clean the bowl, and that's the extent of your responsibilities to this creature.
Yeah, the fish, the aquarium is more of a prop more than anything. It's more decor than a living thing.
It's decor that happens to have a heartbeat. But
okay, but take care of your fish, people. Take care of your fish.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
But yeah, so again, all of those observations are correct. You're right that I just don't want to come home and have to deal with anything other than me. Right.
Yeah.
It goes deeper than that though. Like you're right that if I was to have a pet, it would be a cat or maybe an aquarium, which I guess counts as a pet. And I hesitate to even say something like this, but I don't really like dogs.
Oh man!
I don't know if that
canceled.
I don't know if that was obvious to you or not.
That was not obvious to me. But now that is. All right, I've
mentioned
it.
I've mentioned it before, not here on the show, but like I feel like I've definitely mentioned it to you before.
Maybe you have, and maybe that was like maybe all this other stuff that I'm saying about like his roommates or his personality. It's like that's all BS. It just all this is just coming from the fact that you don't have a pet. And one time you said, "Yeah, I don't really like dogs."
Yeah.
So maybe I'm just spouting off, but I don't remember you telling me that you didn't like dogs. But I feel like that's. So when I was a little bit younger, when I was allergic to dogs, I think maybe I was a little bit more anti-dog than I am now. But like I've generally always been kind of like they're cute AF, and now spending more time with the dog, I think that's even developed that further.
I'm not a monster, okay? I'm capable of
puppy hater.
I'm capable of finding dogs cute. I'm capable of all that. I understand why people like them. It is just they're not for me. I tend to take issue, and I know that this may not be the case for you. At least I hope not. I take issue with really bad dog owners, especially
that's
because
real,
like a bad cat owner, okay, right? They're just a bad cat. Like that cat is probably not gonna bother people. I think unfortunately, because dogs are so ubiquitous in American society, that leaves greater room for really bad dog owners that don't care. Like if your dog is barking 24/7, like that's like a problem, right? It's not only a problem for your dog that you should care about, right? And care about what's bothering them so much, but it's also like a noise problem in your neighbors, and like your neighbors have to deal with that. Like I really resent that. Like I think so I think this goes hand in hand. Like I come home, like I want, like I know it's not going to be like super quiet 24/7. Like I'm not expecting that. I know we live in the real world, but like I think I should have a right to like not have to hear like consistent, constant barking 24/7, right? Like you should care for your animal. Like why don't you care about what's bothering them so much? You should train them. You should do something, right?
See, you mentioned the ubiquity of dogs in our culture, and I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what you're talking about with the fish, it being a prop in your room, is that I think a lot of this trouble comes from people acting like their dog is a prop, and just like a little, it's just like something they can like carry around every once in a while, or something like they can, look cool with, or I don't know, like something cute just to hang out with them.
I think it's a really salient point, and I think you're more right than you realize. I think a lot of people want the aesthetic of having a pet, but don't actually want to deal with the time and real cost that comes with maintaining that pet and making sure that they're comfortable and that they're not doing these like antisocial behaviors like constant barking, over aggression, biting. All that stuff is not good, and I don't care if that makes me sound like a horrible person, but like I don't think, like I'm sorry, but like if
that just makes you sound like a responsible dog owner, I think.
But the thing is that like people don't there's this overwhelming like narrative that like, oh well, dogs just bark, right? But like no they don't, right? Like I have
bite, they lick, they do
they lick, they slobber, they're overeager. All of that is fine. I have no problem with that. It is
they hump sometimes.
They hump. They hump sometimes. I'm gonna have to mark this episode explicit, explicit content, explicit sexual content.
That's just a fact of life. Like you're a dog owner, then you got to face the reality.
That's fine. All of that I'm fine with. Like, I have no problem with that. I don't want dogs licking me. I think it's gross, but like that, I have no problem with that. It is it's the antisocial behavior that is indicative of a problem, a real problem with stress that your dog is having. And how can you not care about that?
Now that's like the real, like, you're talking about like, oh, Marco's anti-dog, but like, I think that the real anti-dog people are the people who have a dog and like just don't care for it. Like, now that's like,
and
it's better to like a dog from afar than to take one on for yourself and just kind of like, neglect it. I was thinking about like what you had said earlier about like kind of, comparing roommate situations to dog owning situations, and not to say that our roommates are human people, like they're not dog, they're human beings. That's like but it is an interesting, I think, comparison, right? And I think it's interesting because like I like to think of myself in what you described as like your ideal roommate situation. I like to think of it as like a ubiquitous general best roommate situation is just an independent, respectful situation. And I think in general that's on paper sounds like the best situation. But you were talking about like I like to I just come home and I don't want to be bothered unless like I only want to be bothered when I make it like clear that I want to talk to you. It's like if I'm just going straight in my room, don't bother me.
Right.
And I think that part of my dog owning love is that sometimes I do like most days like you just get home and you want to go and have some alone time, but I think sometimes you do want that, like you do want to be bothered a bit, and that's the thing is like it's almost comforting knowing that when you come home like your dog is gonna like bother you a bit, like he's gonna like so there's someone there that like cares enough about you they're gonna like show up and like, you know, when it's a roommate, it's like, you know, knock on your door and say, hey, do you want to hang out? And obviously you can say no. And same thing with a dog, where it's like, you know, maybe a little bit harder to say no, but he comes up to you and just wants to play or whatever. So that's kind of like a nice thing. And like, obviously I think that through living with a dog, you kind of develop a relationship of like what is to be expected from him and from you, or her and you, of like the dog owner relationship of like playing and all that stuff. So
yeah,
I don't know. At the end of the day, you're right that it's like this is a different animal that's like not you, and like it's independent and it's responsibility. But there is some like nice things about having.
Oh, I agree. Like I sympathize with all of that. I think just the difference for me is that like I wouldn't see it as like a companion. I would just see it as like an extra chore that I have to take care of.
Yeah. Just take it out.
Which makes me completely incapable of being a good pet owner for most purposes. You know, like I think of it more as like a nuisance more than a companion.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean to say, again, I have to really be clear about stuff. Like, doesn't mean that I don't think that like dogs can be good or that I don't like them all. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It just has to do with like, I know what I want, you know, in my home environment. And like, this will just broadly end up being like a chore for me.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. So many people think of dogs so many different ways, or dogs, pets in general,
right?
In so many different ways. Like some people think of like it's like some people it's like this is your best friend. For some people it's like this is a chore. For some people like this is a you know what was it? What we're saying about the fish, like a prop. You know? Different people just think about these living creatures in very different ways, and I just think that's interesting how we're kind of going about that. Yeah, as society is just like, what is a pet, you know?
And again, just to be clear again, like, just because I think it's a chore doesn't mean that I wouldn't do a good job taking care of a dog.
Yeah,
I would.
If you had it, you have to, yeah.
If I had a dog, or if I, like, a friend entrusted me to take care of a pet, like, I would do a great job taking care of them. I have no... Because, like I said, like, I have had a cat before. I've taken care of a cat before for years on end. And I like cats, and I like, you know, and I like some dogs, right? I like most dogs, you know, just inherently. I don't like the habits that end up coming out of them from bad ownership. That's what I don't like, right? And I tend to be a bit more aggressive in calling it out than I think most people are comfortable doing, which is why people tend to think that I hate dogs, which I don't. So that's where that comes from. That's why. So I don't think there's a lot of distance between you and I than I think you anticipated. I think the distance just comes from our personal preferences. But you know, I think
at the end of the day it's all personal preference for sure. And like you said, like I think it comes back to like the COVID stuff of like, you know, we talked about being a COVID cop a bit, and like I don't think anyone wants to be a COVID cop, right? And you know, sometimes some people want to be good pet owners, some people, you know, don't want to be pet owners. But I think that everyone, like in the same way that no one wants to be a COVID cop, it's like no one wants to pick up their dog's poop. Like no one wants to, you know, clean out the litter box or whatever.
But it's a responsibility. Like, it's your social responsibility. Like, because otherwise, like what is keeping the social contract together? It's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And like pretty soon it's gonna explode and we're all gonna die. You know, like
the dogs are gonna eat us.
So that's where I'm at with pets. It's just like I said, like I which is the same reason why like I don't really see myself having kids. It just seems like a responsibility that I don't want to bear, you know. And the companionship, I just don't view it the same way that other people do. Like people view dogs as like a companion that is like at least comparable maybe to like having like a real flesh and blood roommate. I don't see it that way. Like a roommate challenges me, a roommate talks to me, engages with me. A roommate eats the food that I make for them if I want them to try it, right? No disrespect to dogs or people that like find that companionship with dogs. It's just like I just don't, you know, I don't feel adequately challenged enough. I'd rather just live alone in that case. You know?
I think that I don't know. I like the challenge bit of the responsibility of having a pet. I think it challenges you in its own way. And I think it teaches you responsibility in its own way. And like, I don't know if I'm ever going to have, you know, we went from this like very like, you know, what do you think about pets to like, do you want to have a kid? I don't know if I want to have a kid, but I will say with like the pet, it is good like training. It's like, you know, training to see like if you were to have a pet, like what that's gonna, or what, if you were to have a kid, which is not a pet, what would that entail? And I think that like what we're putting the responsibility, putting the work into it, it's good. Like teaching, it's kind of like my high school never did this, but like I know a lot of like it's the TV thing at least is like they give you an egg and you have to like take care of it for a week or something like that.
Yeah, I've heard of that. We never did that. We never did that. Yeah.
Nah. Sounds like more of a TV thing in general, but like it's kind of like that same thing of like practice responsibility for another, living living being. That's like practice. I don't know.
Do you think we'd be good roommates?
Would we be the right fit, or would we be the wrong fit? I think I don't know. I know how you are, and you've seen my place. I don't know. I think that I think I would enjoy you being my roommate for sure, because I know I've had your cooking a lot, and it's damn good.
Thank you.
But I'm pretty respectful of like other people's space too, and I think that for like what I know, like that's the most important one. The most important thing for you is being like respect, and I think for me at the end of the day, even beyond being friends with a roommate, just being friends with another, or being roommates with another person, like just being respectful of them and their space and all that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So I think on that front, I'm in general just a decent roommate. I'm trying to think of like what potential kind of strife there might be, but I don't know. I think we'd be decent roommates. Yeah, I think we'd be decent roommates.
I think we'd be good roommates too.
I'm not as good as a cook as you, though. Like that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, like, obviously we'd have to like come up with like a system for like the food in the fridge and everything. Like what? Because like I had roommates that again, the roommate that I was friends with, you know who you are. We had like a very informal understanding that like, hey, like whatever I make, like you're welcome to have like one serving of, maybe two.
Mm-hmm.
But like you can't just go to town on it either, because that's like food that I paid for, that I made, that I slaved over.
Yeah.
But but it never became a thing because that guy ended up like eating out all the time anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. Yeah. I think you and I would have like a very easy conversation about like, hey, like you can have a serving like the day that I make it, but after that, like it's my leftovers, and be polite, ask me if you can have some. You know what I mean? Like we could have like that kind of conversation.
See, I feel like we would have the same conversation, the same agreement, but you would be disappointed because your food would be really good, and I would be getting some damn good food. But whenever like it's my turn to cook,
nah, man,
you're getting serving.
Nah, man, like
you feel like you're getting cheated a little bit.
Seeing someone else like eat it and really enjoy it, like that is more than worth it. I was overwhelmingly the guy that cooked when I had that apartment, and it was never a problem for me at all that the other guy didn't know really how to cook at all. Or wasn't that good at it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. See that's good. I think that was the one hump for me, just because knowing that you are a good cook and knowing that I am not, that was one hump. But if that's, I think we would be quite good roommates.
I think the thing that would end up,
I think we'd be quite good roommates until I got a dog.
I was gonna say, like, unfortunately, that would be the deal breaker. And it's not because I hate you or I hate the dog. It's just like, I just, the thing is like pets are another animal, right? And animals, like humans, they leave like signs that like they have been there. And like humans can have quite a strong odor on their own, right? So if you had a roommate that had a very distinctive smell,
you're saying I have a distinctive odor?
Not necessarily, no, not necessarily a bad odor, but a distinctive one. You can tell when they've been there. That's something you have to deal with, right? With a roommate. With a dog, like, I don't like the smell of dog. I have been to apartments where a dog lives, and I have never liked it. That doesn't make you a bad dog owner. It's just the way that dogs are, right? If your dog was very, like, it was well-trained, and if you weren't picking up poop inside the apartment, and you cleaned it as often as you say you do, and it mainly stayed in your room, then it wouldn't be a deal breaker. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
Are we signing the lease? Are we signing the lease right now?
I don't even have a dog yet, so we're talking about a theoretical dog at this point.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, that seems like agreeable terms for sure.
Okay. then we'll sign the lease.
Right.
I'm coming over. All right, I'm coming over in a week.
All right.
Just let me pack my things. All right.